I'd like to call to order the December 9th Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting. Can we please start the roll call?
Yes. Aaron Angel? Here. Scott Conlon?
Present.
Thomas Davis?
Yeah.
Paige Lewis?
Here.
Sam Libby?
Here.
Nicholas Novello?
Here.
Hannah Mulroy is not here. And Council Liaison Sean McCoy.
Present.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, let's move on to the agenda. An approval of this month's agenda. Any amendments we want to make? No. If not, then can I have a motion to? Yeah.
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda as is.
I second it.
All right. All those in favor? All right. Everybody unanimous. Okay, great. And approval of previous month's minutes, which is the October, not November. November. Any adjustments, modifications you want to look at for October's minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve previous month's minutes?
I move to approve the previous month's minutes.
Comments? Look at this, tag team.
Teamwork.
Scott seconds. All those in favor? Okay, unanimous again. All right, we're gonna move next to the next section, which is public invited to be heard. Do we have any public invited to be heard for tonight?
I didn't write my name down, but I'd like to make some comments, if I could.
So, absolutely, just please state your name and your address, and you'll have about 2 to 5 minutes to speak, and then we'll do our best to address those comments we can, but we have a lot of other things on the agenda, so we might have to go into full dialogue.
You want my name now, or I'll get it later?
I'll go to do it now and then we'll get it later also.
Okay. I'm Tom Berger. I lived in Illinois for 40 years. I moved here with my wife. I've been here for 3 years. And I just want to say I visited here with my wife because we had one family member here since 2007. And I'm pretty impressed with all the recreation facilities out here. I've always visited here before and so forth, played some tennis, I'm a tennis player, and also a pickleball player. And quite impressed with how everything is laid out in terms of recreation newsletter and so forth. And I don't think anybody would be able to live here and not find something to do. So I appreciate the board's activities and what they've done, and appreciate it very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll just put it out there, decades of work. I mean, that's all, but of investments to make this city what it is. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, let's move on to old business. And we have one item for the agenda for old business today, which is the green space gap analysis update. And for that, who's going to lead the charge?
I can lead her in.
Okay.
So if you all recall, I think most everyone was here, and you may have missed part of her last presentation, but it's on green space access and equity, and this is one of the tools that she's been developing. It's doing a check on our master plan, just make sure our gaps, that we know where those are currently, but also using it in conjunction with total park health, which Timber presented last time. And so this is yet one more level of review to say, how are we going to prioritize our renewal projects? So she's utilizing GIS and whatnot to create a story map that she's going to walk you guys through.
Thank you guys for the second time attention on this topic here. I'd like to start with a question that doesn't require an answer right away, just kind of keep it in your mind. What does access to park mean to you guys? And with this, I'm going to jump into the presentation. We talked about a lot of those questions, kind of framing those questions in May, right here at this meeting. But what we'll focus on today is gaps in the service of the parks that our system has. I guess just as a starting point to ground this presentation, I'd like to remind you that there is a big need for reviewing what we have in terms of our park system. Council priorities are very grounded in the services that parks provide. Guiding principles of Envision Longmont also are supported by our park system. Additionally, our city is rapidly growing, and there is a lot of development right now, and today is a perfect day to think about how could the park system get better. So currently, there are about 73% of residents that are living within 10-minute access of the park, 10-minute walk of the park. That is about 72,000 of people. And those pink areas here show the residential areas that are outside of this 10-minute walk access. So the blue shaded area on this map shows all the residents and all the residential areas that are within the 10-minute walk to the park. And then the orange blobs here, they show the additional access to the park that new parks will be or are already providing, actually in the case of the Clover Meadows. Clover Meadows is already open, so this blob theoretically should be blue already. But to celebrate it, I'm pointing it out. It's still orange on the map. So very similar, pretty much same gaps were identified in the 2014 master plan in terms of the service areas of the parks. There are a few changes that are worth noting though. This gap, C5, no longer exists, or I guess right now it does, but we have a park in construction, Fox Meadows Park, that will be servicing the previous gap that used to be here. So that is for Fox Meadows. Gap S2 got significantly smaller because of the Clover Meadows that's already open. There is also Ninogawa Park that will be reducing gap S4 and S3. But there is an additional gap that my analysis identified in comparison with the 2014 master plan. This gap S6. This didn't used to be zoned as residential, but now there's development here. So these it's not as dense a residential area as some other areas are, so it might not be the highest priority, but it's still worth noting that this is a gap where there is no 10-minute walk to a park for residences.
And that's based on the transportation, like if you're walking on a sidewalk versus,
Yes.
because it looks as the bird flies that it is, but it's about.
Golden Ponds is right here.
Just gotta assume it fly across the lake.
Yes. Yes.
So that's, those, just to orient myself, if you don't mind, that's just south of Nelson, is that what that?
South of Golden Ponds, yeah, so.
Is that what
Just south
this
of
is?
Golden Ponds, yes.
That's why there's the new neighborhoods in Rogers Road there.
Rogers Road, yeah, Rogers is one.
Can I ask this a question? Your 10-minute walk half a mile, is that a half a mile? Do you know?
It is, yes, it is, I think it's a quarter mile actually, no, it's a quarter mile. Isn't it?
I believe it is, yeah.
And then there's some debate in land use whether a quarter mile or half mile is appropriate for
We
bike
go by the
access.
National Recreation Parks Association
Yes.
metrics to guide us.
And it is measured, if we go back to the previous map, the blue, dark blue is identified along the network of pedestrian access, while those circles are just the radius from that boundary.
Okay.
So the circles might be bigger than what is accessible via pedestrian network, in the case of Golden Ponds, for instance, or some other places similar. As you could see, there are quite a few of those service gaps, and it would be important to consider how we prioritize, how do we go about providing services for these areas. This map shows those thin gray lines as new service areas of land that's already owned by parks or will be a future park. So the yellow parcels in the northern pretty much area of the city, and then near at Fox Meadows Park are the parcels that are already owned. This is also owned by parks. This here is not yet owned, but it's identified on the development plan, and for annexation, it will have to become a park. So whenever development will happen in this area, it will have a park. So although we don't own land right now, but it will happen once development comes in. So these areas, I would say, are less of a priority to act right away because we already have some prospects for land. And then if we overlay these park service gaps with economic vulnerability of the city, you could see that some of those gaps are a lot more affected by economic situation than others. I'd like for you to pay particular attention to the gap C2 as we talk about these issues, because that will be kind of focus of a future conversation today. The same thing, I guess, similar distribution of effect is for extreme heat risk. As you might know, the city has undertaken heat assessment and heat mapping, and they have identified areas that are most vulnerable to extreme heat, and GAP C2 again shows up on this very heavily, as well as area near Nino Gallo. This map here shows vehicular crash data. And this is part of the Vision Zero initiative of the city. And you could see that, again, some of those gaps are more affected by those issues than other gaps.
So this is 17th and Covert? Or is that me?
This is Main
And Brett.
and Ken Pratt.
Yeah.
Very bright. This is an issue, of course, but it could also be an opportunity to the topic today because of holistic opportunity to review kind of what's going on in the neighborhoods. And sadly, but fatalities and crashes sometimes bring a lot more attention to situations on the ground than other, a lot less tangible issues. And this is a mapping by the state of Colorado that's called EnviroScreen. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but it shows, the dark green shows areas of the state that are disproportionately affected in regards to environmental and health impacts. It's pretty much similar statistics to economic and social vulnerabilities, but you again see very similar overlap within the gaps of park service, including gap C2. So we will take a little deeper dive into this gap as it presents a lot of unresolved issues, but also shows a lot of need in terms of the state the community is in this area. This is an aerial image. You could see it's pretty much fully developed residential fabric. And then this map shows all the land that's managed by the city. It's easier to start a park from land that's already owned by the municipality, but there is no land owned in this gap. that's city-owned land. This mapping right here is showing different areas according to Envision Longmont. So orange is areas of change, gray is areas of stability. What is interesting for us for this gap is that the majority of it is recognized as area of stability. So it's not anticipated that there will be a lot of redevelopment in those residential areas. However, there are some areas on the edges of the gap that are expected to change. And this is an opportunity for us in terms of how we can introduce parkland here. This is current zoning in this area. The light blue and the light orange are residential types zoning. Then brown is, I believe it's called institutional, public facilities, that's what it is.
That'd be FAA.
Yes, that is FAA administration, this is schools, this is cemetery. And then this bright green as well as light brown are mixed use development. And this is approximately where the area of change, if we think back to the Envision Longmont, is anticipated also. So this map was developed by Brett Russell in 2022. And orange is areas that are developed. Then light green is areas and parcels specifically that are underutilized. And then dark blue are parcels that are vacant property. And interestingly, since he developed that, I guess the only vacant parcels that were identified in 2022 was one of those was this apartment development that happened a little later in this blue, dark blue area, bringing more residents into this area that doesn't have parkland within. This little dark blue parcel is owned by the church, just as this one. So it's not, I guess, expected that they will be selling or doing something with it. And these are residential parcels, those dark blue parcels. So I guess there aren't any vacant parcels pretty much in this area.
Those darker blue are residential that haven't been built on?
They were built on.
No.
Probably was just a mistake in the analysis. I'm not sure how, I don't think that he would go and check all the parcels. It was probably somehow sorted through the attributes. I'm not sure how that was, but the houses were built, I checked, in 2022. They weren't new builds.
What is the dark gray?
Dark gray is other.
Okay.
But in this case, this is a cemetery, this is mobile home, this is, what is it? You could just click on it
I
and see
think
what
that's
it
a
is.
mobile home park too, I think they're two of them back into each other.
Maybe, townhomes.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right.
Do you think it's mobile?
I think it's mobile. I think you're right. Let's
Mobile's right by the cemetery, directly to the north of
North of that, it's
I think there's a couple of them in there.
Yeah, I think
There's
mobile
another
homes
one on
is this
17.
parcel right
South.
here, this
there?
rectangular parcel, this square parcel.
Could you tell me what church that is that you said, which church is that? The blue and dark blue church?
Faith
Faith
Baptist Church.
I thought they had a school or something on there.
So I actually see this land right there.
going back a little bit, I guess the areas of opportunity here, for large parcels, these parcels and the parcels along the corridor, the commercial parcels. And then the rest of the parcels are just small and residential. And then if you look at the heat map of sales, recent sales, these are the large parcels are in high demand, because it's recognized that this will be redeveloped. So some of these large residential parcels are bought by the same developer. Others are single, like different owners, but you could see that this.
So the city's new fire station is right up here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it is.
It's like right here.
East of.
Yeah.
It's right there.
There's.
And these are those longer parcels then?
So as you could see, park development options are very limited within this gap. One option could be large parcel acquisition. And again, there are very few parcels that you could acquire in this corridor that are large. It's commercial parcels and residential parcels that are pretty much going at the rate of commercial parcels. And it would be very high premium also. Another option could be zoning overlay potentially for guiding redevelopment in these areas. But again, this comes with questions because there is development will be mixed use rather than residential. And currently, the way the green space is allocated is based on the residential units that are within the development. So it could be like a different, it could be either something very different and then there's something very different that requires more from the developer. There's so it's not straightforward answer with the rezoning, but potential. Another solution could be partnerships with existing landowners. Just looking closely at what's there now, like schools, churches, HOAs, even FAA, who knows? And maybe potentially trying to make their land a parkland or improving existing facilities. And then another option could be small parks. It is not common for the city of Longmont to have neighborhood parks as very small public parks, but in this situation that would be better than no park space. And limited space does not preclude high quality parks. There are lots of great examples in the nation. This is Paley Park, one of my favorite parks. It's in New York City. It's 1/10 of an acre. It's simple, but it's definitely feeling like green space when you enter it. Another similar small park, this one is in Philadelphia, very popular. As you could see, it looks like a park, it feels like a park, and it's 1/10 of an acre again. This is an example from London. It's just 2 parking spaces. Again, thinking back to the Vision Zero problem that we also have within this corridor. I'd say this is better than no park. I wouldn't consider it high quality park, but it's something, it's a solution. Another interesting idea in this park is using mirrors to expand the feeling of the space. And then back in September, I looked at available properties just on Zillow. And this parcel is within the gap. It doesn't have a house on it. And it's about $200,000 in cost. Another parcel, this one is an HOA owned land. I guess it's considered their park, but it's not much of a park. It has this gazebo and then this stormwater basin, dry detention. So I guess it's not much of an amenity. It is within the gap. It doesn't have a fence around it, so anyone could potentially use it. But I guess thinking about it, like, is it possible to issue grants to that HOA for them to improve this, or like somehow partner with them and look at this space in a different way? And then another parcel is for sale. It's a larger parcel. It's adjacent to multi-family residential developments. Right now it's just a parking lot. It's slightly outside of that area, but it would make a dent in the service.
I recently walked that area, and that would probably right there do probably the most amount of good right there, that one, because of the fact of that multi-family
Yeah,
units.
multi-family is right here,
Yeah.
very dense.
So it's very dense, and it would be very
It's
beneficial.
going also, yeah.
So which parcel are you, to the
This
left?
parcel right here is
Okay.
Yeah, it's this one right here.
I know, but it has that open space across the street.
I think that's the intention
Extension.
for,
I don't know that is over there.
Is that part of your farms?
no, that's part of the Charles, it's a crossed over,
Overville.
and that's the,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
you know, up to the street too, just going north, is the Westview Presbyterian, and they are very, they're really inclusionary. They have a food bank there a couple times a week, it looks like. I wonder if there's a space there where they had some, right up in here, some gardening space where that might be something to talk to them about. Again, it's just a concern about being on a busy Hover Street with little kids, yeah.
little kids live there now, in those apartment buildings, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
So there used to be a park near, there was a little a pocket park, but we didn't call it pocket parks then. And when I moved here 20 years ago, there was a park that was really close to Longmont Dairy, which also, that's right there in that. And it was just this teeny tiny park, and then it disappeared. We went there because we went to every park. We went there and we played, and then it like disappeared. But it was really small. It was, like 4 of these rooms, right? Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's,
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
color and
It just had a little play structure and I think a swing, and that was it.
That was further south on this.
Down by Longmont area on Cotton.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was up. It was by the cemetery. The cemetery would be a great place to play.
Alta.
Are you thinking of Alta?
It's still there.
It's still there, yeah.
Maybe.
It's tiny.
It's teeny tiny.
Right,
It's
next year, right?
House lots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder, okay, here's just a brainstorm thought there. If we ever have a meth situation where a building is damaged and everything, that I don't know if you're going to clear that property, because it practically takes that level of to get rid of it. If that wouldn't be something to look at in this area, if there's ever some property that has been cited for meth use, that might be something that we could discuss then and say, hey, listen, you're not getting out of this thing. The city of Longmont's Housing Authority, we're spending literally tens of thousands of dollars to just rebuild apartments in our units. And that's why we found it cost effective to have meth detectors that somebody could smoke outside, come inside, and those meth detectors were that sensitive. So, because it was so costly to fix. So if somebody's had a house that has been rented and then somebody decided to, cook meth in it, then there may be a financial advantage to maybe the landlord or whatever to say, hey, it is gonna be cheaper to just sell to us and get like some sort of deal there. You can look at stuff like that.
Could you comment on that parcel that's north of the elementary school? I think you had a photo of it.
North of what?
The elementary school. If you scroll up a little bit, you had a picture of it. That one right there in the middle.
Yes.
The kind of empty parcel that the school district owns.
So
It
this
seems to
one
me like
is
the school district has
this
the
one.
most obvious potential to partner here, and that they already have a lot of facilities right in the area. And I know that can be challenging because of their concerns for liability and risk, but it could be a really good chance to try to make something work that.
And it is a park-sized parcel, especially if you would
And they're not.
put them
It's sitting
together.
there doing nothing. It's clearly.
It's retention.
I think it's mentioned above that, not this far.
I think they
No, this one is for sure.
Didn't we use the retention pond for a cricket pitch for?
At Garden Acres,
Still
yeah.
do.
But it has, I mean, that has no grass per se, it's all undeveloped,
What
Big
about-
skateboard pole, and then you go skate right into the water when it floods. So
What
That's
would
what
you-
it looks like.
I mean, it's worth talking to like the planning department about it. So there's usually like allowed and not allowed uses, pretty clear.
It's not like a
specified.
deep bowl. It's like a very subtle retention if it's a retention pond.
It's not all retention,
Yeah.
at least the topography would not allow all of it to be. This one's definitely, this portion is definitely retention, I'm not sure about this one, it might be still, but it's worth considering and
The other part
having a
would be like,
conversation.
also the schools themselves have very large green spaces. And in Longmont right now, there's a wide variety of like how much access people have to school grounds. Look at Longmont Estates, it's basically a public park, right? It is next to Pratt Park, but it's basically open, there's no fences, people play basketball there, there's a playground that gets used. Where this school is fenced off, as is Central, for example, and locked on the weekends. It just seems like such an opportunity to find a way with the city, with the district to maybe look at this being a community resource. I understand you can't just take a fence down, there's reasons there around elementary school for playtime.
yes.
But the middle school has a huge space there that it's so frustrating to watch them be unused so much of the time, to me at least, when there's so much need in that area for access to green space.
And also middle schoolers need play equipment. So do high schoolers, like there's,
I think it
Yeah.
could be a benefit, yes, it could be something that's being used by the school, by the
they're not too old for play equipment, you know? Like,
focus.
right?
Yeah, the play equipment could vary.
Putting it in right now.
I mean, I think that, I don't know if you are excited about discussion right now, but I do think that churches are a good, I mean, my church saw a need for housing and donated their land for housing. That's, you know, it's like actually missions of churches, you know, and so if the church was given this presentation, they might think, and they're just like, you know, no pressure, we just letting you know that this is the thing and that we were thinking, you know, and maybe they're thinking too, and that would be part of their mission then, that would be part of their service. It could happen, you know, and maybe they still own it and, you know, we maintain it or whatever. It is a beautiful open field at that church.
It's a great idea. And like engage them in the presentation to bring awareness.
Right, you know.
What church are you talking about?
Well,
The
it's
Baptist one.
it's called
That's
Faith
being
Point.
developed into, not Faith Point. Calvary is building, housing there.
Yeah.
Off of Gay.
No, this is off of 15th, I think.
Yeah, this is 15th and
Over?
No, east of, it's closer to Maine.
well,
There's one
it's
on
Terry.
Main.
Terry is one side of it.
Yeah, this one, you're talking about this church.
Yes,
There's
correct.
another one on Hoover.
This one.
15th and Terry
Yeah.
is what I'm looking at. And I mean, it does have a big field. I've, you know, gotten kind of stuffed trying to drive around there to find things for,
Yeah, so they have two parcels. that they
you know, and actual trees and things like that that are already in place.
And I don't know, it is, a lot of people's mission is to serve youth and families, and that would be a great way to serve youth and families.
Be a cool chance to think creatively about management of it too, because they might be able to retain like title to the land, but have the parks department won't manage it, because probably their concern is ongoing costs and maintenance, and like that's what the city's good at, is maintenance and staff and standards and things. Could be cool opportunities.
I know you mentioned the FAA, they do have a big green space kind of behind their little Tykes thing. I've spoken to the FAA about their plan for the other side of the property for solar, but I know they have kind of a master plan for that whole property. I don't know that they have much plan for behind the, what is it called? Junior Jets Child Development Center.
Which one are you talking about?
The big FAA property next to Safeway.
Okay.
I know they're planning, they're thinking they're planning on doing some solar potentially, but on the other side of the property behind.
So is that south, that's south of the property?
Yeah,
They have
it's
quite a few
southeast.
areas that are.
Yeah, that I know they have a plan for, but if you go over to the right there, that's Junior Jets, it also belongs to them, and that whole area behind them, I don't think they
I
have a
think
plan
it's all
for it.
retention too. It's marked in like as like water
Is it okay?
on the county site.
Retention.
Okay, that makes sense. They're doing something back there.
Just driving around.
Yeah, you can see.
I mean, Colorado detention is dry a lot of the time.
Right, yes. Very different than
This is
our
more
So I'm hearing a lot of like discussion about different ideas that we can a lot of really good ideas and things I wouldn't have thought of. So that's why we're here, right? My one question is, so we've zoomed in on C2 as the spot, and I think it makes total sense why we do that. But if we zoom back out, so you said 73% of residents are covered by a quarter mile walk distance. Do we know, like in this area, if we were to solve this problem tonight, let's say it would be amazing, what that incremental gain would be?
Not right now, but it's.
It's something.
And compared to other areas too. I want to make sure we're solving the right problem first, right?
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. Especially with the tree canopy cover, the heat map. I mean, so many reasons why. I clearly follow your logic on that, but that's one thing I'm kind of stuck on. And then for the discussion part of this, were there any other ideas we wanted to share on this topic? Was there anything else that you wanted to cover?
I just want to ask if the story map was public now, if it's updated or not.
It is not, and it's not possible to share it because of the restrictions that all the layers have. It's only for the employees that have access to GIS that you could do. I could make something in a PDF format if you'd like to.
We gotta work on that. The GIS sharing from the city is so retrograde.
Some of those are, it's not proprietary, but there are security restrictions, you know, like, it's not best for everybody to have access to all this information.
We'll look at it. We haven't taken this any farther. This is as far as it's gone. I just kind of said she's developed it, but we'll take that into consideration and see what those opportunities are. She's working really closely with GIS, and they're kind of guiding us as to what we can and can't do.
Well, I met with them at the city GIS day, and their feedback was, we don't own the data, the GIS team, it belongs to departments. And so I think they need your feedback to say, we want to make this public. And you
At the
need,
point
I think,
that
I think
that's
you need,
ready and it's been.
when you're ready,
Yeah.
you need to push them because they're gonna be holding against that. And there's so many great maps like this that are buried on page 74B of some master plan somewhere that nobody can find. And this is such a good tool for articulating what you just went through. So I'm just really encouraging you to try to change mindsets about data. All the data that's in that map can be public if shared appropriately. You can remove attributes that are security concerns.
Attributes that was
Yeah, you can strip attributes, exactly.
Yes, they could do that.
Yep.
There are 19 layers that they would have to strip. So I guess unless there's a hiding the end, so like your voice is heard. But
Yeah,
it's gonna be hours and
They-
hours of work.
Ultimately, we'll take this to council. I think this is really that self-prep that we've been working on this for about a year now. Just kind of get it ready and really great school. Yeah.
This is super impressive work.
This is a public meeting, it's being recorded. People could be here and see it.
Yeah, that's different than
Yeah.
for them to look at the individual parcel information. That's
If
the
the
difference.
parcel info is all on the county website, it's 100% public.
Yeah,
So
well, I mean, like,
parcel data is 100%
this is an
public.
example, but
Yeah.
all the other layers.
I would push them to question whether they really have the restrictions or they're just saying no. My suggestion.
Well, and to Aaron's point, I think there are some of the stakeholders that might be here. We could approach and start talking to them about, like, the church there and maybe that retention pond area and that HOA area that might be like, yeah, especially, you know, as things keep going up, they might be like, oh, we're getting a lot of pressure from our HOA members to somehow come in with cost-effective ways to work. If they had partnered with the city, they might go, that's one avenue to do that. And then again, the thing about if it works that if you're going to have a house that is literally going to have to be gutted from every little aspect, it may be the thing right there to do that little sort of, what was the little park's name again? I can't. Alta, yeah, something like that had that, and then of course that parking lot. You know, those very specific ones in this area, because if we're going to talk about just this area because of its uniqueness, the fact that it just, how strange that it didn't have the parks put in there. How odd that not, because we have had so many other parks that maybe it's just, you know, one of those things.
Could you guys, I don't know, like, maybe it would only work on the property that the church owns, but I don't know if you could use an easement. You know, either conservation or even an access easement that might actually have some tax benefit to them as well and enable you to protect that right still out there.
Yeah, we need to take this to our team and just kind of ask what those options are with the acquisition. But it's all good points. We appreciate your insights tonight. And just knowing that there's more people now that know about this, that have eyes and ears that can help bring it back to us as well.
Good job.
In terms of C2, sounds like your top priority, but is there like
There are other
3 and
ones.
4?
There are other ones. The one that I thought is the second priority, I have learned that it's not much of a priority since N2, a big one in the north area is another priority. When I was looking at it, but I found out that it will have parkland as part of the annexation agreement. So it's not as much of a pressure as far as I could see.
You notice that there's a ton of like multi-family housing happening around like Nelson Airport, Homer right now, and I noticed there's like a big area there. I mean, there's a little farm park, but then there's a lot of people around there that won't have, you know, 10-minute walk access, and it doesn't, I don't see any park or open space, you know, benefits being built into any of those developments. It seems to just be like pretty much wall-to-wall housing, which seems like it's gonna exacerbate the problem. And so I don't know if you guys know if
I'd have to check. We have Christian and Lisa are on our team. They're involved with DFC. I used to check on them.
Just have I think we had an ordinance that just talked about pocket parks and what we were gonna.
Yeah, when they're still required for low-income housing.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
It's just a smaller,
It's when there's just a certain percentage of
the
low-income
requirement
housing
kicks in
units.
at a higher number of residences.
I feel like I should know this, but bigger apartment buildings can just pay into a park fund, right? They pay you all as part of the
Development goes into
development.
park improvement fund. for
Yeah,
new parks.
so they don't
So then
actually
that
have to
doesn't
put it on
actually
site always.
benefit the people that live in this
Yes.
apartment.
I
We
think
need
that's how
to
land
spend
use
more
code
time
works.
kind of saying this was, it's very obvious, you have to put something.
Yeah, I don't know that there's code for that purpose though.
Right.
You're
I mean, that would
pay
be-
into fee.
Good city planning.
Yeah, just-
I'm curious what you said about low income, like the low.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that was in June, May or June. I happened to be at the meeting, but it wasn't my presentation. But there was an ordinance to keep requiring pocket parks for any low-income housing. At a certain percentage of units, they have to continue to develop pocket
And
parks.
how close
For
they
sure,
are
because
to
it's
other.
even more important.
Because they need a place to go. They
Even
can't
more
travel.
importantly, yeah, especially you can't travel and you also probably don't have a yard.
Yeah.
And is it doing affordable specific design standards? Is that part of part? Is that why it came in front of council?
It was all part of, so, what was her name? The planning team presented
Oh,
it.
Jennifer,
Do it, Jennifer, do it.
And so they were changing some code. We just happened to be at the meeting.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
7:15. I think that's probably a good breaking off point.
I'd like to leave you with a final thought,
Okay,
guys.
okay.
It's a Chinese proverb, with enlightenment comes the laundry, so I hope you stay in touch and keep this on your mind as we work towards providing more access to parks. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
That's great.
We need more change numbers in our lives. Okay, moving on. That was a great discussion. Awesome. Let's move on to the ice pavilion update. And there's 30 minutes carved out for that, Jeff. That's okay, it's a juicy one. All right.
Well, I got juice here on Fridays.
I see.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Nice. Great.
They're closed, so I'm anxious to hear.
Done.
I can't afford these.
I think 60 degree days gone out.
What?
60 degree days gone out.
No,
Yeah.
especially when chiller doesn't.
That's the bigger challenge.
Well, tonight will help.
Yes.
So, hi, I'm Sarah Taylor. I'm Recreation Area Supervisor for Aquatics and Ice. And then when Ben asked me to do a quick presentation on ice, it was more because I met you all back in May and did we're getting ready for aquatics, we're getting ready to open the pools, and by the way, we just bought a brand new Zamboni and we're in the works for getting a new chiller for this year. So this is kind of the follow-up to that, and then we've had all of these other issues that have come to light this past week with the chiller. So that's kind of the summary of this. But here's our Longmont Ice Pavilion with ice and with snow. With this pavilion, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but we have to start completely from scratch. So this is roller skating in the pavilion during Rhythm on the River. This was last September 21st. And then during the warm months, this concrete slab is used to host special events at Roosevelt Park and other gatherings. So that was September. And then here is our new Zamboni. We brought that one in. And our little new Zamboni, you can see it's a little bit smaller than our old Zamboni, which is awesome because it's easier to maneuver for our staff to drive it because our ice rink, it is a small rink and we do have some tight corners, so this has been a lot easier for our team to learn and train on. So there's our new one, side by side. So with the ice build, the way that this works is we have to have, this is our staff trailer right here for admissions, for our rental skates. This is where everybody checks in. That has to get moved in by a moving company, which is stored off-site during the warm months. We then go ahead and build a ramp so that people can come up to the window, go down to our lobby area. We surround the entire area with portable fencing. Then this, let's see here, we have to borrow tractors from our brothers and sisters, Golf and Parks. Pull in, those are our white glycol mats. So the white mats with tubes, and that's what the glycol runs through. All of this stuff gets stored in the trailer or the barn, which is really right next door to the ice rink. And so the team, they come, they get it all out. They have to roll out all of those mats. Once the mats are all the way down and nice and flat, they then have to bring out the big dasher boards, which are the plastic boards that surround the rink and make a nice perimeter. Once that is there, then, so here's everything. Here are our glycol mats all laid out. We just bought these last year for last year's season. When we got our new glycol mats, my recreation maintenance supervisor, Phil, had the great idea of, hey, if we get one more roll, we can make this ice rink 4 feet wider and 8 feet longer, and we did it. Because to be that way, we had the space. We really wanted to invest into the space. And then, once we had all that in place, we got rid of the old chiller and we added in the new chiller. Unfortunately, I didn't get there to see them take away the old chiller, but here is the new chiller coming in.
I feel like they put the old one in here tonight.
This is like the new ice rink, smoother, larger, and colder. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I'd realized to do this guy and the time lapse.
It was neat watching them get everything hooked up, get all the straps. An amazing crane guy. They've got chain ropes hanging down from the chiller to kind of get it into its spot, line it up perfectly.
Wow.
Isn't that neat? It's not something you see every day.
And that sits permanently behind those barriers, the cement barriers.
You are correct. This was in 2024. We were awarded one-time funds to spend on the ice rink, and it was basically to buy ourselves a new chiller. And because we got the new chiller, and this chiller it landed October 24th. The team, or not 24th, October 14th, the team worked super hard for 2 weeks of creating and laying down the glycol mats, getting all the boards up, and basically building that entire rink, so that as soon as we had our chiller installed, we could start creating the custom fit to connect the chiller to our glycol mats. And that's been a lot more custom than what we expected.
I have a question.
Sure.
But did you guys look into whether there's any rebates available for your chiller that's so much more efficient?
With the chiller, it was with the citywide award with Train.
No, you may want to do that. Your local electric company may or may not have custom.
Who's that now since Chuck's gone?
You can call me.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, we're getting a new truck. It's been a thing. But just thinking of it, because custom rebates can be pretty substantial. But if you bought it within a certain amount of time, they'll help you work through the rebates on it if it's more efficient.
Awesome. It better be more efficient, because
So
the old one was what, like 25, 30 years
So not a ton of guarantees, but they have custom rebates for big things, like attended for things like this. So we can help you figure that out if you're interested.
Oh, we say yes.
Okay.
So once the chiller was in there, then what we had to do is so this is our header pipe, and this is what our glycol mats are connected to. And the glycol goes through there, and then it keeps going back and forth, to the chiller, goes through the chiller to get cold, and then back out to the ice to keep the ice cold. A lot of it was doing a lot of custom connections to our existing pump. Unfortunately, I didn't have a good picture of the custom connections we had to do inside the chiller. So we had to create a way to get the glycol and out of the chiller so we could even connect it over here. And that was all custom built. The team did an amazing job of being very creative. Lots of testing for glycol, for air leaks before we even thought about pumping the glycol in the system. So we checked it for air leaks. They would find a leak, they would fix the leak, they'd get all excited, they'd run it again, and then a new leak would pop up for air. And so that process took a lot longer than expected. But everybody wanted to do their due diligence and making sure once we had the glycol in, we wouldn't have any problems.
Is this a yearly thing that you check every time?
Oh gosh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely want to get all that. We want to make sure that it's pressure tested before we put in that glycol. Then once you have all that set and the chiller is running and it's pumping that glycol, keeping it nice and cold, we start spraying water. And what's unique about my team, which I'm really proud about, none of us came from an ice background. We all started in aquatics, and then we've been learning a lot about ice. And and walking into it, you think, sure, can I just turn on the fire hose and flood the rink? No, you can't do that. And it actually takes lots of time and love and the correct angle of your wrist as you're spraying the water layer by layer by layer by layer. So it took about a week of super early mornings, super late nights of doing a patient layer of water to get it to the level where it covers those pipes. Once you have it to the layer, the ice built up, then we go through and we paint the ice white. That was a fun thing to do this year. I hadn't done that before. And you've got to hold the hose to keep the hose off the ice because you're spraying the powdered ice paint as fast as you can, but you don't want to leave any marks on it because if you do, you have to stare at that mark for the entire season. So we wanted to keep it as white and as pristine as possible. Well, once you've got the white ice and it's all painted, then they can add in the lines for hockey. And once all of our lines are painted, then we go back to adding more and more and more layers of water to build it up. You want to build the ice up above the paint lines because you don't want your Zamboni cutting and shaving off your paint lines when it goes on. Along with this process, you also pack a bunch of sand and freeze that sand behind your boards to really kind of build them in place so that early season, if anybody runs into it, the board's going to stay there. So once it's built, there's your Zamboni. There they go. Well, once it's built, and actually while we're building it, the team is still doing interviews, they're hiring, they're planning the training. We've got about approximately 50 seasonal employees between working the front desk, being an ice skate guard, an ice manager. This year we have an ice coordinator. Last year we did not have one. The person that we had for, I keep saying 20 years, had finally left the city of Longmont to do her other retired job. And so last year we didn't have an ice coordinator, so it's a big deal for us to have one this year. You've got your hockey coaches and your learn to skate instructors and your learn to skate coordinator. With all of that, between these are your hours of just our group trainings and group overviews and orientations, and then some of the positions, they also have a bunch of shadow shifts to make sure that they've got the support and they're able to do everything correctly. We don't want anybody driving a Zam. We want to make sure that before we let you go on that new piece of equipment that you know what you're doing. So things with ice, we've got our ice skating hours. So we offer public skating. We've really looked very hard into attendance trends from last season to this season to try to really maximize when are people coming to the ice rink. How do we really maximize that it is a holiday rink for public skating? We did, like for example, next week, that's the 16th, we're going to open at 1 o'clock during the school day because last year we realized that we had a lot of other people that started their season way before St. Vrain Valley School District did. So just based on our number trends from last year. And with that on the flip side, we really analyzed when people were using ice and how many were using ice at a time in that postseason. So January through March, that January, February, beginning of March, really after winter break is over and all the kids go back to school. I'm really trying to maximize and make that as efficient as possible. We do after-hour rentals on Saturdays, mornings, evenings. This year at Longmont Lights, we're going to have an ice show, which the Learn to Skate coordinator has been putting together. She's got 2 figure skating teams that are coming to do performances, which is pretty exciting. I think it's Rocky Mountain Figure Skating Club and Fort Collins Figure Skating Club are coming down during Longmont Lights. So they'll do that, I believe, from 6 to 7, and then from 7 to 9, we'll offer free ice skates to everybody that wants to ice skate that night.
So we're open the 20th, you said the 21st of December?
Yeah.
Or we're open now?
Yeah, we're open. Well,
okay.
Normally we're scheduled to be open right now.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, normal schedule. We opened on November 22nd, the Friday before Thanksgiving break. For the programming, we've got adult drop-in hockey, we've got stick and puck, we have open for all ages, we've got it for like the little kids 17 and under. This is our first year we are charging a drop-in rate for anybody that wants to participate in either of these events. We did a lot of market analysis along the Front Range in Colorado, and majority of all teams, I actually haven't found a team that was not charging for people to come in. What we have been doing in the past, we were letting people just use their recreation pass or just pay the daily drop-in rate. But with our expectations on revenue, this move right here will hopefully kind of help give us a little a little boost, as well as we are going to be industry standard. Learn to Skate, we're able to offer more classes on Saturdays. Our Learn to Skate coordinator's done an amazing job of recruiting and hiring and training Learn to Skate instructors. And then
somebody in this room's daughter with her first job,
who our Learn to Skate coordinator actually recruited. That's fun. Yeah.
She's excited.
Good. And then this year we will be offering Puck the Irish again. Since we've got our Learn to Skate coordinator, we're really excited to get her going on the planning on that. Still to come for this year, I believe they're being dropped off tomorrow. We have purchased some new skate lockers. to make it where it's a little bit easier and more accessible for people to feel comfortable on their ice. I know, aren't those fancy?
Those are a lot fancier than what you had.
Yes. What we have has never been my favorite, so I'm very, very excited for these. So they should be here tomorrow, and that way it'll make it, yes, enough sun right there. And we're also working on a replacement rental skate order to come pretty soon. And these will be like what they'll look like. This is what we currently have. That's the insider view of the ice rink and our rental skates. And we open on Friday, November 22nd. This is Phil Gorner. He's one of our ice guards who actually did a ton of preparation with the ice build because he's retired and he just loves spending his time at ice. But this is him working at opening day. I'm so happy. He's a great one. Thanksgiving week this year, we had a total of 1,735 skiers. So that is more than last year, which is super exciting. The other thing, just to be on the radar, which we were kind of talking about a little bit beforehand, is the fact that our ice rink has been down since Wednesday last week. Unfortunately, the chiller was not. Do you want to say it? You say it the best.
The chiller is not fully compatible with the pump that we had, in effect of the amount of flow, the lowest amount of flow from the chiller was right at the highest amount of flow through the pump. And then you throw in the distance that we go and the age of the pump, which whatever that might be. And it was working. We knew there was a problem for quite a while, and we've been working on it, but it's managed fine. Well, until it didn't. And all of a sudden, and basically we had to reset it a couple times a day. And then all of a sudden it became once an hour and no hold.
And that's where we're at.
That's the cost of something like that.
With shipping.
$14,200.
Really?
So are you ordering a new pump?
It should be en route either right now or
We started working on this
tomorrow.
steadily on Thursday, and by Friday afternoon, we had a deal with our pump. It was built in Texas today, and the guy should be on the road right now driving
And
to
it was
us.
part of your contingency fund, whatever you had to back up in case something like this happened? Or
We have the funds.
We have funds, okay.
Funds to do that part of it. Yeah, so
That's pretty quick. Good job.
costs quite a bit to get it here, but we hope it shows up tomorrow morning. And Phil Henry has a plan to. He's gonna build the setup for it on the new pump, so we can just kind of pull the old one out and put the new one in. So, and that should.
It should.
Do you think
Fix
they'll
the
be able
problem.
to reopen?
We're hoping.
Well, we absolutely want to be open by Friday.
Yeah.
And we have holiday lights, so that is, and we absolutely think we should be. That's the plan. So that's what's happened in the last week. And,
What do you do with like people who have prepaid for lessons and everything? Do you refund or offer them
When
extra
we cancel
time,
stuff
or-
like this, we give them a refund for what they missed. And for example, with youth hockey, since they've missed the most so far, I'm kind of waiting for whenever we do get to reopen, so I can just do it once and be like, I'm so sorry. Here's your refund for the 2 classes that we had to cancel for you. So we'll take care of that on the back end. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very excited about the new chillers.
We were too.
Oh, there's always something. There's always something. I mean, with recreation, but this is so important because this is our outward-facing aspect of the city that most people, whether it be walking to a park or using a recreation or a library or a museum, but all of those are those outward-facing sort of things that people see more of than anything else.
And so many people come to that park whether they skate or not, and having the park being open and lit and running and active.
And the only people who are happy are the people across the street because music is not being played.
Different conversation.
Is the new chiller going to keep the ice colder on warm days?
As long as because our biggest problem is the pump because it's not moving the fluid through quick enough. And so then the chiller, it's interesting because, like, so I've worked in pools, and so with a pool, when the water stays in the heater and it gets too hot, it stops. And now I've got the opposite problem where I've got a chiller where the glycol's moving too slow and it's getting too cold, and then it shuts off. And so we're like, but it's cold, but the chiller won't keep.
It's ironic that it's a low temperature alarm that shuts it down.
Right. And we can watch, and what's great about this chiller is you can see all the diagnostics on the side panel, and it'll let us know exactly, okay, here's when the chiller went ahead and reset itself and turned itself off.
You guys, I know a lot just from other rooms that we have experience with, there's like a remote, like a lot of them has an app that you can kind of monitor. Can you do that with this? That doesn't have an app that you can remote monitor.
I think it was out of our price range.
That sounds pretty fancy.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that would be most important for us on the app side is showing volume of use. So people had an idea of how busy it was, then they might say, okay, I'll go tomorrow when it's got a lower volume, or I'll go to time when it's lower volume. So when you know that it's being utilized to its peak performance, then you might have people go, oh, I see when there's lower times, and that's when I'll choose to attend, because I'm not going to be fighting, to get out on the ice. So that would be something useful, I would think, to people.
The app that Paige was referring to is the mechanical.
Right, I understood that.
Yeah, there are some ideas with cameras, and then you get into camera law, which is its own interesting.
You can just use Google check-ins though. Is already going to figure that out.
That's what
that
I was
updates
gonna
every
Use
week.
Google.
Oh, you
Use Google. No.
That was. Why can't you? Or we have
Well, the golf has some sort of program.
Sounds like
That's probably specific to golf. That would tell how the peaks and the valleys of use. That's all I was thinking, is something like this would be very useful to us.
We actually, when they pay, when they check in with our registration software, we can create reports that tell us how many people checked in per hour.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where it might be interesting to show on average where the peaks and the valleys are, so that people will go, oh, well, that's when I need to be going, so that, because I'm a learning person, I'm learning to ice skate, I don't need that many people in the.
Same for Union or any other pocket park.
Yeah.
Even like the rec centers, you just go there to work out to see, it's like, oh, it's low
It'd be great
low
to know.
attendance right now, I'll be alone running and making
That'd
a
be
fool out of myself. I know the recreation master plan talked about creating the app. I know it's slightly different, but the idea of having like a Longmont app of some sort to check parks or ice skating rinks attendance or golf, so it might be good idea.
It's like what the restaurant is.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Love it.
That was awesome.
Thank you, Sarah. I did have one question. So I wanted to ask Sarah
Yes.
one question. So you mentioned adjusting the programming based off of learnings from last year to optimize
For the
revenue.
public skate hours.
My question is, are we meeting our 80% target for
cost recovery?
cost recovery? Thank you.
The ice ends, yes.
ICE is.
Overall division is not.
Okay. So if anything, revenue is probably ahead of where other recreation programming is in terms of cost recovery. Is that right? And that's also maintenance, not buying new chillers and pumps.
Yeah,
Right,
because
that's
that's separate.
fun.
Ice has been healthy for several years now.
But we've run it pretty lean.
Yeah.
Because it's usually the end of the season, and then you start a brand new, fiscal year in January, and it's, okay, here's our budget for the whole year, which is still a little bit lower than what it was.
Again, the budget and the revenue are it's an overall picture, Ice is a piece of it. And what we really looked at was that there are two seasons. There's the holiday season, and that's when really the vast bulk of our drop-in happens.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's after that. And so we really tried to see when were people actually coming on a good basis. And then so try to move some of these other ones that we just had a few. Well, we're still gonna leave spots for everybody on multiple days, but we wanna have more people on these days. So reduce the amount of staff time. Try to be smart about
Okay, great, thank you. I asked it only because I want to see this, the extra pavilion stake sit around for years to come.
We got
So
chiller.
making sure
It's not
it's
going anywhere.
sustainable.
And 20 more years at least.
We made it bigger, we
it.
got
We just
a
invested
chiller.
a bunch. I mean, that has been our, for the last couple of years, that's been our mantra that
Right.
we're gonna get this thing going and we need a bunch of money to do it and we got it. And so that's, we're there. So right at the, this is it for the big things.
Yeah,
Then
let's
we
just
can
get that pump.
focus on some other stuff.
Great. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
And Sarah's also gonna bring up our,
The other one, there you go.
The Recreation Master Plan update, next up on new business.
alright. So, everybody read it all?
No,
I was trying to say yes.
Whoever wrote it, good job.
So, yeah, this is just a brief history of how we got from A to B. The master plan update was involved in conjunction with the feasibility study that we did 2 years ago, year and a half ago at this point. And at that time, we decided we were in such a crunch, we really needed to put this on the shelf until that's done. And so last fall, we kind of got to a point we could work on it, but depending on the bond, it may be very different. So we said, all right, once the vote happens, then we could really want to get started on this. And we did at that point. And it's taken us about a year. It's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of staff time, and the company has put in a lot of work, but there have been, I don't know, 20 revisions or more. It's been a lot, and we've asked a lot of them and felt like, you know, at moments like, why didn't you do this, and getting the right ideas in there. So we feel like in the end that we came up with a good product, that this is something that is an addendum to our earlier one. I still think in 5 years we need to go back out and make a whole new master plan from scratch, using what we had, but certainly a brand new version. So that's how we kind of got from A to B. There's been some pain on it, but we did get there. And really what I want to talk about are the goals in the back. Before I get to that, I'm going to talk about the goals that are at the back here. Anybody have any questions on all the information leading up to that point, I guess?
Yeah, a little disconnect on page 13, the new rec center, right? I mean, there's huge interest in a new rec center, but yet that's not how voters, like, I mean, have you dove into like the splitting up of the data?
Well, that, just for the record, that was done
It was before.
prior to the election.
So that whole section is from the feasibility study. So that is all.
They also
And they
advertise
didn't
people in the
just vote
records
on a
letter.
rec center, they voted on like.
I wanted to point out something, when we do our, we have a consultant come in, and I think it was Magellan, that came in, and they told us that, when they do their, statistical analysis on something like this, the ones that actually do the best are anything over 60%. When we did that evaluation, it was at somewhere around 56, 58%. We let it go forward with that, even though we were informed as a council that it was below what is a better threshold for success, and we kind of were schooled.
Well, nothing passed, but there was.
Yeah,
but something else that was overseas.
No, there was something else.
Library
There was
was
library,
over.
but library was mad because we tried to piece everything as a strategy from council. When we saw library was up and this was just slightly down, we thought that tying them together would be logical to try to bring both up. Does that make sense? So that's where the strategy failed, considering also that in light of the other, events around property taxes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Before we get started. I know you referenced the 2023 feasibility study, and I was wondering, they may have all seen it, but I'm hoping for a copy of it. Just because I'm curious about the numbers of respondents and participants, because I'm gonna reflect his comment on
everything you see, this is it. I mean,
Okay.
this whole section, the data section
Is
is
from
from
that.
that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's from that.
also, I guess, reflect the similar concerns that the respondent pool is pretty small to consider it statistically valid, which I know they state in there, but to your point, the vote came out faster and kind of
Yeah,
showed that
it was not statistically valid, but it was also on a crunch time where there was no time to do really good work.
it's hard to get people to answer.
And trying to get it on the ballot. We need to be working right now if we're gonna have anything on the ballot in 26 at the earliest.
I mean, it's really hard to get people to go to public meetings. I mean, it's really difficult. And the demographic tends to sway a certain way. So, any other questions on kind of the data and things you saw in there? So, page 35.
Got it.
So I want to kind of go through the goals, and what they did here, and this is a lot of work again with us kind of going back and forth, is took our goals from the 2015 plan and needed some updating because some things in the world have changed since then, as we all know. So I'm just going to kind of run through these and let me know if you have any questions. So goal 1, bring new participants to recreation services and expand the user base. So, this is one that, it's an obvious one, but having this in place, I feel like is important because what we want to do is have this on the staff's mind. And that's where the idea is not to have this thing go sit on a shelf, right? That's, everybody has that problem and we do too. What I have told Jeff is that's on me to get this to our staff, to have this in their minds as we do our jobs on a day-to-day or a month-to-month basis to think about these things. So certainly one of the areas we want to work on is utilizing GIS like we saw up there. Where are areas that we that our folks are coming to us and where are areas that they're not coming to us. And we feel like there's some ability in GIS to help us with that. But what we'd really like to see is this Placer AI, which is the name brand version of people movement tracking, which we are all in part of with our cell phones. And it's something, I'm in a group with Tatiana, and we're looking at putting something in the budget next year for 26 for the city to be able to use this. And for us, show how many people in parks, how many people, it can show how many people going to facilities, how many people are at the Halloween parade. So that's it. But then where are these people coming from? And that's where I think it relates to this. And how do we really target those neighborhoods, those communities? I think that's something that really excites me about that possibility. And I think there's a lot of really good things for the city there. Agree? Parks for sure.
Because we don't admit and so people don't check in and pay at parks, so it's really hard. That's obviously.
1, 2, or expand programs, engage residents. That's something we do work on constantly. No surprise there. And then, of course, that's an area where we would like to see a little bit of budget flexibility, because to try new things takes money, and sometimes those things are going to fail, and sometimes they're going to hit. But as you all know, we're very tight in recreation right now, so it's a real challenge. So we're hoping that that'll improve for us next year and the following year. Use existing participants, opportunity to expand participant base. So utilizing our folks to try to get word out, I think, is the general idea of getting the people that already come to us to be our proponents, which many of them are. Word of mouth for us, people having a good time, means everything. So really trying to tap into that more than we did. These are going to take time. They take staff time. So that's where I think the real challenge is there. And then it involves marketing. And feel really good about our marketing folks, the new marketing person. She came from a recreation marketing background, which is awesome. And she already kind of knows our world a little bit. So that's been a really exciting thing. Goal 2, build upon current strengths. I think the plan itself showed.
Sorry, this one.
Oh, sorry.
No, I went to the end on actually.
36.
I hit page down and it took me to the end. It was done now.
If you look through, we'll show the data shows that we're doing a wide array of programs, certainly comparable to anybody around us, and that's something we want to continue to evolve, improve, and one of those keys, as always, is try to figure out what's working and what isn't, and go ahead and make the hard decisions at times to move some things, to close some, like we did with the rink, to narrow some things down a little bit, expand where we can, like we expanded some of the times around the holidays. Those are good examples of trying to build upon things we're already doing well in the operations side, and also utilizing those ideas in the programming side. Staff development, it talks a little bit about. That's something we would love to see a much larger training budget, for example. So we're going to try to be creative with that until we have some more options within the city to be able to offer that to our staff. So that's something we certainly want to be stronger in. And then expanded programs to current participants. Kind of the same idea with the programs and building upon what we already have.
I see that you were looking for interns. Have you thought about AmeriCorps, using AmeriCorps?
I've used AmeriCorps before in the past, in a long time
I feel like
ago,
they came and helped out with a couple special events.
But I mean, like, you can have an,
We did it.
and you can have an AmeriCorps volunteer that is permanently assigned to recreation. I mean, the museum has AmeriCorps, so.
Who does?
Museum. That's
Full-time
how,
staff,
yeah, that's how they got Courtney, is she was AmeriCorps. And then when her time of service was done, she was moved into.
Yeah, we haven't had nearly as much success with interns as I feel like we used to have even. Last few years.
I think we should reach out to the University of Northern Colorado. Because the thing is that that's where a ton of folks in recreation.
Yep.
Yeah,
they're in Metro too.
Yeah.
And we really have. We
really
have
have,
reached out
okay.
to both of those areas. And our HR is been involved in some of those job fairs and things that they do at both of those schools.
And is it recruiting the right number?
Yeah, I want to be close to where they're at too. I don't have a good answer for it. It's something we got to get better at, or try to find a way to get a few more of those, because those people can be really valuable. And,
I wonder if some of the high school kids know the pathway, that sometimes it's when they work as lifeguards and they really kind of get into this scene and realize how important it is and what a big part of every community it is, that then they don't think about going to University of Northern Colorado or Metro, because they're so like, hey, look at CU, hey, look at CSU, but those aren't the schools that are focusing on that recreation, tourism, and hospitality degree that many people who are going into this industry have that background.
I have a couple of part questions. You working with Front Range Community College, I imagine, on recruitment, interns, fellows?
I can't tell you we're doing a bunch of work towards it, because that's staff time that we don't.
Yeah, just if
currently
in
have
the
allocated.
future.
We do that through our HR. We put out opportunities for that. Not specifically though.
I happen to know some people at Front Range and kind of interns and apprenticeships and stuff like that. I know they're always looking for opportunities for their students to get any kind of placement. And the second thing is probably under goal 1, but I'll say it just because you're moving through it kind of quickly, is somewhere in here that talks about accommodating the schedule for working professionals. And I am sure you have reasons for why you set your schedules the way you do, but I just had happened to be like, oh, the winter one's out. I'm gonna go see what fitness classes are open this time, and they are always from 9 to 11 a.m. or at 6:45 at night, which is like, you think that's for a working adult, but I don't really want to wait an hour and 45 minutes till I'm done. And then they talked about like doing half-hour drop-in classes at lunch, like just as a city employee, we all get free passes to the rec center, somewhat free. But there seems to be not a lot of like start at 7:30 in the morning, be done by 9, or at 5 p.m. kind of traditional 9 to 5. I've lived here for 4 years. I look every single time, and they never have classes that work for a traditional work schedule. So again, I'm sure there's reasons why you guys do 7 a.m. and people don't enroll or something. But like a 7 a.m. or 5:30 p.m. Just it's never.
Well, I don't. Without having the schedule, I don't have a specific answer. I will pass on that feedback
Just
to
throwing it out
Carl and
there.
others. The fitness schedule is a constantly evolving.
Yeah. So I just checked
Classes
again, and I was like,
coming.
oh, like they're all again kind of seem to be towards people who work second shift or retirees, stay-at-home moms and things of the sort. But 9 to 11 a.m. is not super useful for a yoga class. So, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we're on 3.
Yeah, we're goal 3. So here's one that we've talked about a lot. So we wanted to make sure this was included in the last one. We'll make sure this was included in this one. It's what we talked about is selling our story, and it's something, frankly, we've never been great at. I feel like we work hard to give this great product. You know, that's what we do. You know, that's what we're proud of. We want to do new things, and we just want to keep growing and doing all these things. Take a breath, step back, try to sell this story a little bit more. Trying to put numbers together. Jeff has been a strong proponent of annual metrics that we have finally, after, 12 years of goading, we finally have a program that we can show to you guys on an annual basis or as needed. And that's one step. Trying to get us out there. Getting Sarah here to talk about ice with you guys. That's another thing. All of these things try to get our information out there better and have folks understand how important recreation is, which I'm preaching to the choir. Really important. We want to make a part of this is for us. A part of this is so that we can say, this is what we need to do to other folks who don't know us very well. So we can talk about the council and things like this when they come up. So. And goal 4, improve quality of service. This one talks about staffing levels that in Longmont, our staffing levels are not on par with other municipalities here. We have more part-time staff and not as many full-time staff as you'll see in surrounding communities. So, which we love our part-time staffers. They do an amazing job. We don't open without them. But we could use a couple more people, and it would help us to grow. And it's something that's been a real challenge in recreation to get. So this kind of calls that out in that part there.
Are you able to convert part-time FTE equivalent to full-time?
Yes.
If people depart, you can then open up and hire.
Yeah, but it's
No, we can't.
no,
Not like
not like that.
Not like that. We have to go through the budget process to be able to do that.
Yeah, and then
So
and then that involves. So we've done that. We just did that in aquatics where we took some money reserved for head guard and a coordinator. We combined it and took some hours. So we have to figure out how to fill those hours up. What were those temps doing?
Yep.
We have to fill those, be able to do that, and then add that staff. So in this case, it was what we called
The aquatic facilities needs, this was, I believe, all done in 2022. So all like the back end work of pulling up, okay, temp wages, how much if we replace a temp employee with these hours that they would work with a full-time employee, and then what's that going to cost us with the benefits and all of that. And then that had to get approved in the budget cycle. So we did get 2 40-hour benefited employees.
and it is challenging because when you add all the benefits, our rough estimate is 30% for full-time benefits. And it gets very expensive, although we know that full-time folks are capable producing more. So, it's something, you know, we work on every year, and we will have folks in, we're asking for next year, in 26 again. So I think we're.
Go ahead.
Keep going.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think that it's great. I mean, definitely increasing investment in staffing, you know, increasing the level of staffing, I think raising the profile of recreation, like that's all really good, and hopefully you'll be able to do that. I think it's gonna result, ideally, in more people wanting to use recreation services and still lacking capacity. So, I mean, we'll still need a new rec center.
Well, I agree 100%. But the more we can stay full and keep pushing that envelope for us, the more we'll be able to put that out there again, just even more strongly. Hopefully a better overall situation than we had last time.
I mean, that does seem to be sort of the key recommendation of this, is for the city to add a rec center to meet.
Facilities on that list.
Yeah. We, and you know, and that's one of the things we wanted to have in here is the need for more space. Yeah. And so we kind of made sure that they were focused a little bit on that. And this is the same company that did feasibility studies, so that's why they really understood that. So I guess.
So what will you do with that information? I mean, how will you?
This information in general?
Well, the recommendations from this, do you then take it to council as part of future budget development, or?
We'll submit this to council as an informational item so that they see it. More importantly, I think it's something that we can reference. So when we do go and we're talking, I'll use council as an example. If we're going and talking about the next rec center and the need, we'll certainly be referencing this document and the numbers we found, and then our own metrics that we're currently producing. So that's one of the angles of this is support for the things that we're trying to do. And on the second line, it's having staff again keep this on their minds, and that's up to myself and then Sarah and Chris well and all this to keep pushing these things out. And one of the things I don't know if you guys know this, but the mission and vision. So there is a reason that's one line like that and very short, because frankly I wanted it that way. I cannot stand when we have these statements, and they're very similar in so many cities, that you use a bunch of keywords, but now you've got 10 keywords, nobody can remember it. So I tried to do something, and by I mean we as a group. Wordsmith this, Jeff threw it through AI, ChatGPT a couple times. We did have all the keywords. And I'm pretty proud of what we came up with. So we tried to catch a feeling rather than all the catchwords and details. And it's something I want to have posted. I want to have our staff be able to reference it, and that'll help to keep this thing on their minds.
Well, for example, when one of the goals is making sure the community is aware of what we do and just kind of really marketing ourselves. Sue Ellen, one of the recreation area supervisors who's in charge of making sure our recreation brochure happens, she put our mission at the bottom of every page. I'm like, how perfect is that? That's why we have it short and sweet, because we can actually use it and put it out there for the community to see.
Coming from education, edgy speak is always being criticized, and when you make it short, simple, and sweet, it is probably easier for every level of the community to understand. But
better to remember it.
Than to have it so complex that everybody's like, oh, right. But I was going to say, from a political point of view and elections, if we wait until 2026 to talk about this, isn't that at the same time as the next assessment for property assessment? I mean, we've got to look and see when these things are occurring, because if that is something that, if that was a factor in this last one, we need to make some assumptions that it might be a factor in the next one. And we also have to look at the amount of people getting involved in elections, because we know that presidential elections have higher percentages of people participating, and midterm elections, which that would have higher percentages of people participating. But off-year elections like 2025 don't. But to attract people, you have to have something that interests people to either vote for or against. So 2025 and 2027 are the more.
We've debated this.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just saying for the board to think a little bit about that, because that's a.
Right. And we feel like we really need a year of planning before we even go to council to say, hey, we think you should put this on the ballot. Because I think one of the shortcomings we had this time was it was put on the ballot and there was really no time to do any education because staff gets the muzzle. And so we feel like we need to have a group organized to take the reins once the muzzle comes out.
Right, I would agree that that's the critical component, that you have to, I think you can't all of a sudden say, hey, we're thinking about doing this, who's interested in getting those parent groups and those recreation folks that use it all the time to actually start walking the streets and putting it, flyers and things like that on people's doors and calling and everything else that a campaign actually requires. So that's a big deal.
I do want to, we had the last goal, so real quick, for to update cost recovery requirements to incentivize community impact. You're all familiar with this. We went through this in the spring. We had a plan. We kind of took it to budget. It was put aside for this year. We will be bringing it up again. We did want it included in there because we feel it's really important that to take a look at our model in its entirety, including the scholarship programs, our free swim lesson programs, take into account the costs that we do by providing employee passes, all of those things that we should get credit for, so kind of a package. So that's kind of what that last one is saying.
Real quick, I saw Scott raise a hand.
Yeah.
A question on three. The first point is probably the most important of the three of them. So I think, have you sat down yet with the new marketing person and build a communications plan? Because it is good to put it in like the recreation flyer, but there is the majority of people in the city who aren't participating in recreation, right? Those are the people we need to talk to about these things on a more regular basis.
Yeah, are you talking about our stuff or a ballot?
No, our like just stuff in general. Okay. So like the whole idea of the value proposition story, I would assume like marketing should build a communications plan.
We have had a couple meetings, and we have a core group within recreation that has marketing kind of as their experts in different areas, and they've been meeting with Jill, our new marketing director. And, that's something we're really developing right now, and marketing has been really changed around in the city in the last few years, to where we've never had a marketing person, right? That's something we always feel like recreation should have. We're the only ones that are not a monopoly, right? Well, like library, museum, but we have revenue requirements, and yet we don't have a marketing person. And so the way it's evolved, we do feel like we're being heard, and developing that plan. I don't have the answers, but it's something we're hoping that Jill can really help us with targeting these different areas of the community, trying to get folks in where we're missing, trying to get out to programs in the parks or something that we've talked about and done this much, but more like this much is an example of that. And we've had some success with that type of program too.
I noted in there too, there was the recommendation about changing the cost structure. And I do think that making, recreation services more affordable to more, to people, and having that tiered by income would be really helpful, because, I mean, we heard from a lot of people that they're just sort of costed out of being able to afford a house.
Yeah, it's a real challenge. We've heard of the tier thing, trying to do such a thing. I have no idea how such a thing could work. But I mean, I love the idea. I don't care whether we make money or not, but the way our system works is we're required to. I just want more people. And the easiest one for us, up the scholarships a bunch, so that the youth in the city have some dollars that they could be able to spend. So that's been our Jeff's biggest push for years.
I'm still hung up on you saying we don't care if we make money.
I don't.
I've heard words.
I have said that to you.
I just want a quick point on the income qualification thing. So there's other programs, for example, CARES program, the city's utility
We have
discount,
been.
that they are already certifying it so that we don't have to ask them for more paperwork for electric purposes. So just, I'm not saying you haven't thought about it, but a way of like,
We've
you
actually
get
tried to
CARES,
do
we'll
it,
give you a cheaper.
And the response we got was, because we're so big, it would overwhelm their system. So,
Free
but
reduced lunch?
that being said,
Yes.
we have actually, I feel like in the last year, that's been modified to where we do want to look at that.
Yeah.
Again.
Just a thought of not
Yeah,
making
it's a great area to look at. Because then, like you said, I don't want us to be trying to figure out who's qualified and who's not.
I'm in a similar boat.
That's not something we're going to be good at, for sure.
Exactly, so.
Yeah, I mean, free and reduced lunch would be good, but right now, less people actually apply for it, the middle need people, because, we already have free lunch. I know, like, my family, we didn't apply for it for a couple of years because there's free lunch anyway, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna weigh out the value of my time and look at, like, how much the SAT test is gonna cost, right? And so I think there's less people applying for free and reduced lunch. But the CARES would be really good. I mean, both of them would be good, but free and reduced lunch, you could just get right on, because everybody uses that.
It's a way to reach the kids too.
Everybody uses that. But I'd also like to see scholarships, not just to kids. There are other people out here. I'd like to see like some young people scholarships that are, college age students and things like that. Or for older people or singles, like people that need connection in the community a lot.
So everybody.
Yeah, everybody, but not everybody.
Well,
not everybody,
I
but you know what I
We
mean?
want
Like,
recreation in general to be affordable.
right,
That's
to be
really
affordable, but like maybe there's, I don't know, like some free programs or some ways to do some things to get people to have some connection. Like some recreation moment that is significant to them.
I agree. And that's where we're gonna need support, because that takes money to do that. And right now, we don't have that. We don't have the flexibility to be able to do that. And so we're hoping that as we approach this again, and hopefully the city's in a more flexible budget position than this last year with all the property tax stuff next year, that this can be something to actually get through. And it'd be awesome. So we will be talking about this come next budget season.
I've got one last one. I think you kind of sort of speak to this in 2-1. But all the other ones we're talking about, like doing more, adding more things, growing the program, would make sense. Is there anything we want to do less of that we should be talking about? And that's an investment in its own way, because that allows us to focus more on the things that matter.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest thing for us to do.
Right.
And we have tried to not do some things and been told from above that we have to do them when we know financially it's not a good choice, for example. But even more simply than that, even giving up individual programs can really be a challenge. So trying to keep an eye on those numbers. I mean, we do it. It happens as a constant thing. But really trying to focus on where are we winning and where is maybe somebody else doing a better job of it than us. And we can focus our resources somewhere else. So like some things go.
I think a good example of Ben and Sarah tried to do some modifications of the swim and facility hours.
We did.
And and they implemented it And I will tell you, I haven't had as many comment cards in quite some time, to the point where it really sent a message to how important certain things and certain times are to people, that, again, based on just what you said, Aaron, sometimes providing the service is more important than the money that it brings in. And so we have modified that and are offering those services.
Well, it's not just money though, it's also staff time.
Yeah, it's a combination of that there, where financially, if you're running a business, people would have done exactly what they chose to do. But in government, we're not always running a business.
Yeah, and so Sarah had a whole package of adjustments. And again, we do adjustments all the time.
Yeah.
But this was really a focused thing to try to become a little more efficient here and there, looking for opportunities. And one of those, did a water aerobics class that, if you guys are familiar with, I mean, I think you guys all know that water aerobics classes are very vocal. And so that was a case of a combination of them, and Sarah looked at our numbers and then
Called that dead. I don't feel good about this. We gotta make a
all the
change.
things we're doing, you know, there was no reason to die on that particular story.
Exactly.
But it was an example of what I think you were suggesting of, can you cut something to make space for something else? And ideally, we try to do that, and 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work because it ends up cutting the most important program that we offer to a group of people.
Well, and I think when you're so lean with your programming anyway, it's not, there's not a lot of fat to trim. And so anything you trim is gonna have a constituency with it, because they've like been holding on to their.
It's a dynamic of not having enough resources.
Right.
That's what happens.
The big resource that you've got now, you've never had a marketing team before, ever?
Never had a marketing person.
Well, yeah, hold on for the next 12 months. The next 12 months, then you probably have a different dynamic problem.
Well, we don't have one still, but like I said, it's been centralized. And the leader of that group has been directly involved in recreation marketing for Denver.
Okay.
So we feel like
you'll get it.
We don't just feel like, we know we're getting somebody who really knows our business, is gonna be able to help us.
Yeah.
So while I'm not gonna get that full, we do feel like we're getting something. We're gonna take advantage of it.
You're getting more than literally nothing.
Yes.
And then,
That's good.
I mean, yeah, that's 100% more. But yeah, and then beyond that too, with that focus on
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much.
are they able to lend any sort of data points? Are they allowed to bring in a lot of that Parks and Rec data from Denver and just show you what did and didn't work already? And then you can
Well,
are you allowed to, like,
yes
past
and no.
performance indicator?
Well, I will tell you that they showed us some data points from Longmont. I took a picture of my phone every time they showed one of those.
Oh, the free.
Yeah. So that I would have those, like, some little inside information before the fact.
Yeah.
But I think we believe that could help us in utilizing those points. And the stuff we're already doing, utilizing the information we do gather from that track and entries.
Awesome.
Anything else tonight?
Home stretch, I think we're at the last, we're ready to
All
move
right,
on.
thank you. Sorry, everyone.
No, it's
I
okay.
can't-
Perfect timing.
You're right on.
Who knows what time it is?
7:20.
Items from the packet. Does anybody have any updates from the items of the packet you want to raise? Sam.
I was going to ask, there was a note about park staff are working with sustainability and water conservation staff around turning conventional turf areas into more water-wise landscaping.
Is that in the operations section?
Yeah, a final report's complete, will be presented soon. Can it be presented to us? Are they interested in that?
I'll ask.
Okay. Be featured as a budget or agenda item. And you're interested in that too. Question on the Army Corps project, Boston Ave. It says it's due to be advertised in August. It's now December.
Sorry, which thing?
The Army Corps projects. Was it advertised? Is it proceeding? It's on the update's like 4 or 5 months old. Just know if it's
Yeah.
still.
It hasn't been awarded.
Okay. It's not been awarded. And then I was wondering if there were any updates on. We had St. Vrain Phase 13 updates in there, but on Phase 12, we used to have Phase 12 updates in the packet, but they've fallen
So
off.
we've gone through with the warranty deed and we've got the land now. And
Okay.
it's to this, it was annexed when the warranty deed occurred and it's now recorded.
Okay.
So you can click on there and see it's all City of Longmont.
Cool.
I think that was in the CIP. I think that was in 27 for
Okay.
design, if not 26 for design.
The land part got
construction.
finished.
The land part's finished, yeah.
Awesome. That's questions I have.
That's probably why it fell off, because it wasn't in our next group of projects.
Mm.
But I can let Sarah know.
It's ready to go, basically.
Yeah, as soon as we,
So
every
it's
step in our
designed.
CIP that's approved. And I think it was 26 for design.
Any other items in the packet? Items from staff?
More.
Not anymore.
I can do some quick pictures if you like.
That's a lot of record.
Yes.
Photos.
9 minutes.
Lights.
Until we turn to a pumpkin.
We need the heat.
Lights.
Yeah.
Those fields are the coolest thing that we've seen. Walking out there with the lights at night. It's just.
I'm trying to track great.
It was this weird.
I feel like you're in the movie.
So much activity out there.
Yeah.
Just, there's gonna be so many kids having a great time.
We've been riding the bike path all the way up into there.
Yeah.
I live over next to Union and it's just been a rock up there.
It's incredible. Those lights are. You go 20 feet out and it's.
Yeah.
You see,
Just a
they're not standing.
Yeah.
They're even gonna add some more hoods to the little bit that kind of goes into the bushes on the north side. They're gonna add some deflectors.
Right.
Yeah.
It is like a curtain.
No, it's
It's just like, my kids were loving it. They were going either side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a playing thing.
Yeah.
Actually,
There you
that's
go.
an item for play.
Like
You wouldn't even think about
Yeah, I
it.
mean,
It's
that-
kind of like rocks, you know, how they can be such a good play thing, you know?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
super.
Oh, it's awesome.
Goose fun thing for sure.
Yeah.
Especially without any lines, just get this big green. My mind is just so crazy. Golf
You like to roll that as part of having on the board?
event.
Oh, yeah, like, right? Yeah, a bit of a chip and chase it down or something. Yeah.
Well, you could drive the ball and not gonna get the end from one end to the other. It's a good.
Oh, I know, I could.
Are you gonna damage the turf if you hit the
I
grass?
need some feedback. from-
Here we go.
Speaking of my golf game.
Tee boxes.
We could get a few of them.
Get the rugs.
Out
Yeah.
there. I was gonna say.
So,
Not this end, the other end.
Yeah.
So we had Clover Meadows opening. Aaron was there.
I
You
came
got to
too.
see- I didn't see you there.
I saw Steve, but it's anybody else.
Okay, we
Yeah.
stuck Steve at that table.
Yes.
Yeah,
There
he was
is
great
that
at the
table.
table.
Yeah, it was good.
But it was a great turnout, did ribbon cutting, and Tricia and Elisa had planned a scavenger hunt, which was amazing. We had kids running all over the place. And there was free, like, little snacks and stuff, and hot chocolate and apple cider, and we ran out of all the foods and all the drinks right at the end. It was like perfectly planned. They're really great party planners. So know that if you need anything. Tricia and Elisa run it. But it was really cool to see. It was a beautiful November day, because we had to put it between turkey trot and something else, and so we felt like, we'll see, and it was like absolutely
It was perfect.
So,
Yeah.
so that's open. Then we had a great evening to see the lights come on. And you can see this is taken from over by the middle school, Altona, how it's dark, but then it's light on the field. And it was really cool to be on the field. Tati and Anna and I took off running. We raced each other all the way up. But it was a really neat time, and I don't know when, because it's gonna, substantial completion is the 18th of December, and then they'll have until November, like, not November, right in the beginning of January to complete the construction acceptance.
Yeah, we were gonna ask when we could actually.
Yeah, and so I'm curious,
Targeting January.
from substantial completion, you talked to Tatiana, that's when it's ours. They'll just be doing certain little things, but it can
Okay.
still, so you
So
can
we
support
still
it
have
or.
it after January 1, looking pretty good.
How will that work for like use and access? Like, is it, do you have to reserve it or plan for it or?
Yeah, we have a plan, like all of our fields.
Yeah.
We have plans for all of our fields. These will be a little bit different, like the pricing structure will be different and things like that, but it's an open field, so.
And it'll only be lit when somebody's paid for it to be lit, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or does it have any sort of lights in case somebody's out there messing around?
So they can
Like-
see to mess around better?
Not on the field.
Not a field, like if
Okay,
somebody.
but basically
That's why the-
top left
that's
is
why
the
the night
night lights
lighting
on,
does.
so you still have your parking lot lights
That's what it does.
for safety, but you don't have
Underpass,
field
you
lighting.
can see their sprinkler.
Cool, looks very
So
cool.
that whole package will look a little bit different, but we've had a plan to work with athletics.
The other thing is you can tell there are no lines on there. And so we have the ability to paint that to whatever size of fields we want. And then once it wears off, we can do a whole new configuration of it.
So we kind of imagine a once a year setup, like we come in the spring and we're gonna set up, and we kind of have a plan now of the mix, and working with soccer a little bit on what they might wanna see. So we're gonna put a plan, and then the end of the year, it'll kind of wear off as we go through the December month, November, December, and have something new the next year. We'll certainly make adjustments year to year based on the need and maximizing use.
You could do slightly colored lights and then different colored lines at the same time. And some things show up under certain lighting and some show up under other lighting, and then we could have pickleball courts there.
Those lights are so tall.
No, I mean like they just change, yeah.
They do
They
have a
can
color.
do that.
They do change,
They do
yeah.
have a color.
Yeah, they
These
do
lights
change.
don't.
You get it done.
We didn't get the color.
Oh, my God.
But you can.
They didn't get color.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Like if you have red lines,
We just
they
get
disappear with reddish lines, they completely disappear.
If you go to football games, you can do programs where if you have the different colors where it'll turn the lights off and flash and do some kind of thing to celebrate if you made a touchdown.
Maybe the
or
next
something.
one.
Yeah.
Fox Meadows is moving along, playground install, some turf has been installed, some shrubs and trees in areas that can be, the areas closest to Deerwood are going to be planted until near the spring at this point. So they're gonna do like a hydro mulch, just make it safe for over winter, and the restroom building and the shelters will be coming in, right at the turn of the year. So it's moving along, and, so depending on the level of planting and hydro mulching, they're gonna make the decision on, is the park gonna open ahead of spring, or is it gonna wait for the final plantings? And that's to be determined, just based on weather and all of the different things that could go wrong between now and then. And then Thompson Park has made a lot more progress. They're getting ready to install their playground equipment that came in end of last week. Working on the restroom building, also sodding, pouring the footings and the pads for the new shelters, which will be coming in soon. So they've been busy out there.
Is that officially not first of the year anymore?
Oh, they're bound to
Okay.
this month.
That's just us as a Q1.
Oh,
there.
well.
Yeah, first thing.
Well, reality,
The contract is holding them to this month,
Okay.
and then there's some,
They have had a lot more guys there, so they seem to have gotten the message.
well, you know what else it is? The project manager that is normally on it went on vacation, and he wanted to get a whole bunch done before she came back, but we had Tatiana on them, and she was out there every day, so. Yeah.
It's substantially noticeable how much more they've gotten done.
Yeah. Nino Gallo is under construction.
Cool.
There's equipment, there's things being moved, clearing and grubbing, doing erosion control. And it may have been, I haven't gone out there today to see if they had their trailer moved out, but it was this week that they're supposed to do that. So. And then I don't have an update on the potential temporary sidewalk. I did reach out to the team. They said they had a 4-week engineering hold, and they're starting in 2 weeks just to get that blue section of the sidewalk. But Tom hasn't responded as to what that milestone schedule may be. But they have put in the Boston Bridge sidewalk.
So are there light poles that get moved?
I don't know. That's the part of their, they did have to get a survey, and I know that slowed it down a little bit, but I don't know any more than that. I think that was all I had.
Thank you. That was awesome. Okay, items from the board.
Oh, we have someone leaving. Good board.
Thank you, Paige, for.
This last one.
My goodness, that's right.
Thank you, Paige.
Wow.
Yeah, we did the interviews, I didn't even think about who's leaving.
I know.
Yeah, hopefully you chose someone good.
Thank you for all your contributions, Paige.
Yeah, that's been great.
Great.
2 times.